What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. It's today we're going to be breaking down the wide receivers in this year's 2022 NFL Draft class. We're going to be taking a look at their route running. We're going to be looking at Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, and we're going to be taking a look at Jameson Williams. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it gives you some insight on why these guys are so special, why they're able to create a ton of separation, and maybe some things that all of them need to work on a little bit, okay? So again, hope this helps you guys out. Hope it gives you some value. But also, fellas, we are going to be traveling to 9 different cities this offseason for 2-day-long quarterback and wide receiver training camp. So if you guys are local to Tampa, Florida, Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California, you want to come out and get some great work in with myself and my staff of former D1 and NFL coaches / players. Check out that very first link in the description below. Spots are limited. We're limiting it to only 10 to 12 guys per position group. So again, spots are going to fill up fast. Our Tampa, Florida camp is pretty much sold out. Houston, Texas is almost sold out. So check out that very first link below if you guys are interested in coming out to one of our camps in our 9-city tour this offseason. Let's get started with this video. So first route we're looking at here is from Garrett Wilson, right? I think he's the best route runner in the class, and I don't think it's close. And this video is going to be based off of who I believe is the best route runners coming out of this class. And I think Wilson is so special because of how explosive he is, right? So many people talk about like, oh, you got to be sudden with your cuts. You got to be explosive with your cuts. He's the pure like definition of all of that. He's very explosive with his movements. He knows how to step outside of DB's frame. He knows how to threaten them in a certain direction, but most importantly, he knows how to sell routes, right? And so when we are running a route, he's running this goal line fade route, right? And he's got a DB who's kind of in this catch technique, which means that he's about 2 to 3 yards off, and he's inside shade. So what would you do as a wide receiver in this case? You would want to attack his leverage. You'd want to try to square him up because you know that he's not going to backpedal, right? He's not going to backpedal on the goal line because if he backpedals, we could just easily just hook up and run a stop route right in front of him and quarterback give me a ball. I could run a slant. It's easy money, right? So we know he's going to just sit right there. So Wilson does a great job of attacking him, kind of giving that little foot fire release. But this is what I want you to pay attention to. This is something that not a lot of wide receivers can do. They make this explosive of a cut, keeping his toes forward, but his whole entire upper half is turning separate from his lower half. So many wide receivers struggle with this. They don't have that loose upper half. They don't have a relaxed upper half. They're very tense with the upper half or almost stiff. And so when they throw a cut like this, their hips and their shoulders stay facing forward. They'll maybe give like a little lean with their head and their shoulders, but they don't throw their upper body into it. And this is the spot that all wide receivers should be getting to. But Wilson is one of those guys that gets to this spot very, very easily. And the way he does it is very fast and very explosive. So if you're a young wide receiver, this is what you want to model your releases after. When you guys can threaten a DB inside, everything about this route right here, everything about this release looks like it's a slant. His hips and his shoulders are both to the slant. He's stepping outside the guy's frame. Now, a lot of receivers, when they do this, they'll step outside the guy's frame, but they'll open up the toe. They'll point their toe over here. When you point your toe over there, guess what happens? Your hip opens up. And then when your hip opens up, you don't have any explosion to be able to get back to the outside, which is where your release is. So we have to focus on keeping that toe closed. Weight stays on the inside arch of the foot. You keep that shin angle at like a positive 45, but we can sell with the upper half. That's where the DB is going to be watching. DB is watching my hips. DB is watching my number. He's not looking at my eyes, or at least he shouldn't be, and he's not looking at my feet. I have to threaten him outside, but most importantly, I have to throw with my upper body and commit my hips and my shoulders to the inside. And you see that gets him to jump, and we're able to get a ton of separation. Imagine if this was middle of the field, and he had to go run a deep fade. He'd be open by at least 5, 6, 7 yards, simply because he's selling this thing with that upper half, sudden with his feet to force a reaction out of this DB, but mainly upper body is separate from the lower body. Let's watch the thing again full speed. I think Garrett Wilson, best route runner in the class, not even close either. Now, after this, going to take a look at this route from Chris Olave here. So now, big thing with this route is this is like kind of a speed out route on the goal line. Again, another goal line route. I think he's probably one of the best route runners, I would say. I think he's a close second for sure. Obviously, Wilson, I'm a big Wilson believer, but I think Olave does a great job of running efficient routes at the top of the break. Like, he's just very smooth. Everything that he does is extremely smooth. What he does is great. So when he comes off here, you got, again, same situation. You got an inside shade DB, right? So I have an inside shade DB. He's about 2 to 3 yards off. What do you think we want to do? We have to run this 10-yard out, right? So do you think he just wants to run to the 10 yards? No, because we got this DB who's inside shade. That's where he wants me to go. He wants me to go straight to the outside so he can get right into my hip, force me to that sideline, and knock me right off this route, right? So that's pretty simple. That's pretty simple what he's trying to do. So as a wide receiver, we have to have that IQ, and that's what I think Olave is really good at, is that he's able to attack leverage. He understands how to make a DB move. He understands what a DB is trying to do because, again, he's got a ton of experience, right? So when he comes off him, you see how he attacks that leverage, gives him a move to the inside, makes that DB stay honest to the inside, doesn't allow him to just jump right out right now, and then he bursts back up to the fade. Now, what so many great route runners do, especially at the next level in the NFL, they're able to pair routes together, right? So what do I mean by that? You see Devontae Adams all the time. What Devontae Adams does is he'll do that little hesitation skip, give a little shake, and then he'll run a slant, and then he'll come back, do that same hesitation skip, and then just go run a fade right off of it. But he makes the routes look the same, and he pairs the routes together. So that's what Olave's doing right here. He's making the routes look the same. So how would you run a fade in this coverage? You'd have an inside shade guy, you'd attack his leverage, and then bam, you'd race to the back corner, you'd expect that ball over the top. So that's what we have to make it look like. Maybe I've ran that before, maybe we've ran it a couple other times in the game, maybe we've done it on film a couple times, and that DB could be sitting and expecting it, right? So I come up at him, I attack his leverage, I give him those eyes, and that gets his eyes to be in the backfield, and then I got him. Anytime that DB starts peeking in that backfield, looking at that quarterback, that's easy money for me to be able to create separation. And you see how he just puts that foot in the ground to get off of there. That peek back technique is one of the best things you could use top of the route when you have an outside breaking route, especially on the goal line, to make this thing look like a fade. Because again, it's about pairing your routes together. It's about being unpredictable. A good DB might pick up on it, right? I guarantee you a good DB coach will be able to pick up on it and will coach this guy up, especially when you're at the next level. So if you're a high school wide receiver and you're watching this, to be able to play at that next level, you got to make sure that you're pairing your routes together. Your routes have to look the same. What you're doing off the line can't be different for every single route. It has to be somewhat similar to be able to create space. And that's why I think Olave is such a great route runner. I think he's such a great receiver this year because he's got that IQ. He's very smooth in how he moves, and he's able to create a ton of separation simply because what he does is not very complicated, but it looks similar, okay? Let's watch this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job attacking, pushing up with those eyes, breaking this thing off, and accelerating back to that ball. Great route. So now we're looking at this rider from Jameson Williams. This is like a stutter go, and I think this is probably as good as it gets with the stutter go, and this guy's got blazing speed. This guy's incredibly fast, and that definitely helps, but I think he's a better route runner than what people give him credit for, okay? So let's watch the thing full speed. So he comes off, he gives this little stutter with his hip drop, gets that DB to stop, and then he gets that distance by keeping that head down and finishing the play with late hands over the top. So I'm not talking too much about hands here, I know, because this is a route running video, but we're going to mention that and how he's able to win over the shoulder on this play. But anytime that you guys have a double move, right, everybody knows this is pretty self-explanatory. You want to make it look like the first move, right? That's pretty basic advice. So when your guys are running a stutter go or like a stop and go or whatever it is, come back and go, there's so many different ways that can build off the go. You have to be violent with your movement, and you actually have to drop your pad level, because watch what he does here at this stutter go. What so many guys will do is that they'll just kind of like stutter their feet. They'll just chatter their feet. There's no level change with their pad level, because guess what? What is the DB supposed to be watching? We talked about this in the very first clip. He's supposed to be watching my hips, right? He's not supposed to be looking at my feet, looking at my eyes, looking back to the quarterback. He's watching my hips. So to be able to get him to stop his feet on a double move like this, I actually have to drop my pad level low. I actually have to drop my hips into a break, because that will get him to stutter. And if I get that DB to stutter, I get him to stop his feet, I can get a ton of separation. So what does he do? He's going up into this break. He actually drops that pad level for a split second. There's a level change there. What I mean by level change is like he's running high and he changes levels and actually drops. And that's what can just, if we can just get that DB to hesitate, and I got speed like Williams does, that's a ton of separation. I think Williams' speed could help him out a lot at the next level, but again, he's got to be a good route runner, because again, you see so many great route runners come out of Bama, right? Like you look at Jalen Waddle, like that guy's fast. But, dude, what he does route running-wise is very technical. It's very calculated. And I see a lot of that in Williams as well. What he does, there's technique to it. There's a method to the madness. It's not like he's just running routes out there. He's out there and he's actually doing things that are going to be able to get him separation and using his speed to his advantage. Because now, anytime on a double move, when you get that DB to stutter, we want to widen the distance, right? So a lot of guys on like a stutter go, what they'll do is they'll start to look back for the ball right here. What Williams does is he keeps his head down, he pumps his arms, he accelerates, because he's concerned with, okay, I got separation, now let's keep separation, and let's really keep my head down and pump those arms. A quarterback, a good quarterback, especially in the NFL where this guy's going, and especially in college where I know a lot of you guys who are younger wide receivers want to go, you're going to have a quarterback who's going to put this thing on a spot. He's not going to wait for you to be open. He's throwing this thing probably right around when you stutter, and he's putting it to a specific spot downfield. Our job is to get there. So if we're looking back too early for the ball, automatically slow, and guess what? DB has time to react, and I'm not going to be able to catch up to that thing. I'm going to have to look back for the ball, then put my head down, then look back for it again, and I'm not going to be able to catch up to it. Let's keep my head down. Let's widen the distance, and then I could go make this play because he does not get there. He does not get to that ball if he does not keep his head down right away. If he looks back for it and he slows down, A, it's going to be tighter coverage, and B, I don't even think he gets to that ball. Now, when that ball's coming over the shoulder, Williams is great because, again, he's such a deep threat downfield that he has to be really good at this. When you got a DB trailing you, you want to make sure that your hands are late. You don't want to show your hands too early. So what do I mean by that? When that ball's coming over the shoulder, you see how he's catching this thing like kind of down by his waist? That is so the DB does not have time to react to play his hands. He is waiting for that thing to drop in the bucket. He's tracking it with his eyes. His hands are late because if you were to show your hands too early, guess what that DB is going to do? He's going to rip through those hands. He's going to shoot his hand through that hand and knock that ball out. And especially in college, it ain't a spot foul, right? It's just 15 yards, so he'd rather give up a PI call than give up a big 50-yard gain downfield, right? So that's a great job by Williams from top to bottom on this route. Really like the way this guy runs routes. There's a bunch of different clips that we could have shown here, but this I feel was one of his best routes of the year. So let's watch the thing one more time. Good hip drop. Keep that head down. Widen that distance. Widen that gap and make that play over the top. So now last route we're going to be looking at here is from Drake London, and I think this is a good route. And it works, don't get me wrong. He's very dangerous when the ball's in the air, and that's another thing that I want to talk about. But watch out when he breaks to this out route. He's a bigger dude, but I think for his size, he does not move bad at all. Obviously, he doesn't move like Olave or move like Wilson or move like Williams, but he's 6 foot whatever, 6'4", maybe 6'5". I'm not sure how tall he is, but for him to be able to move like this is pretty impressive for his size, right? He's a lot like Mike Evans, right? Like Mike Evans, not the greatest route runner, but not a bad route runner by any means, right? So when he's getting up into this route, he's running this out and up. So normally when you run like an out and up route, like on this out portion, you got to commit your hips and you got to commit your shoulders to that 90-degree break, and you want to try to snap your eyes around. Now, I'm not a guy who's going to say you have to snap your eyes around because the DB ain't looking at your eyes, or at least he shouldn't be, but snapping your eyes around certainly helps getting your body around and getting your whole like torso turned on that angle to sell the route. So when he breaks off to this out route here, you see how he's kind of drifting upfield. If I'm a DB, I'm not biting on this thing because his hips and his shoulders are pointed straight up vertical. But because he has a ton of speed on this thing, that's what gets that DB to bite, right? So when he comes off of this, you see how he's in full stride. He's actually gaining ground with those 3 steps. So many wide receivers, what they'll do is they'll be at the top of the break and they won't use this speed cut to push out. They'll cut and kind of stop themselves, then they'll take 3 steps. It's not what you want to do. You want to be able to cut, push off of this, take a full 3 steps, because if you guys can take a full 3 steps, be in stride, have some speed, that gets a DB to jump. What DBs are taught to look for is on a double move, look for him changing his steps, look for him changing his stride, look for him slowing down, and then they make a break on this thing. But if I can make this break and really drive and really accelerate and really open up that stride, that can get that DB to sit because that looks more like an out route. That's how guys run an out route, and that's why he was able to get some separation on this thing. Again, takes kind of an inside release off of that, but great job going up and high pointing the ball, going up with strong hands. There's multiple occasions where we could have included him going up for a jump ball, which is why I think he's extremely dangerous when that ball's in the air. But overall, not a horrible route runner, I don't think. I think that he could clean some things up, but most importantly, great receiver. I think he's going to do really well in the NFL. I think he's going to be a lot like Mike Evans in terms of his style of play. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job bursting out. Great job selling with speed, selling with stride. Could commit his hips and his shoulders just a little bit more to get some separation, but overall, great route there by London. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Always appreciate the feedback, and again, it's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you guys are local to one of the 9 cities and states that we have on the screen right here: Tampa, Florida; Houston, Texas; Phoenix, Arizona; Newark, New Jersey; Atlanta, Georgia; Chicago, Illinois; Dallas, Texas; Nashville, Tennessee; and Los Angeles, California. You want to come out and get some great work in with us. Wide receivers, DBs, quarterbacks, everything that you guys can think of. 1-on-1, 7-on-7 positional work for 2 whole days. Check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.